Ons fokus vanoggend op die hoenderbedryf en ek gesels met Fred Hume van Hume International. Fred, welcome to GROOTplaas.
Good morning, Mia. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with import bans when it comes to poultry. What is the latest? If you can give me just a bigger picture of what's happening at the moment.
Okay, Mia. So what's topical and trending at the moment is an outbreak of bird flu in the country of Poland. Poland only recently reopened for poultry exports to South Africa and is now promptly closed once more. Our bone of contention here is the fact that South Africa has yet to agree to a regionalization policy with Poland. Regionalization is in place for the United States, or exports of poultry from the United States to South Africa.
Yeah.
I believe that the US had, they had a big gun to our head, and that gun's called AGOA, and that forced South Africa brought them to the negotiating table. Unfortunately, this hasn't been the case with Poland, and a single outbreak of bird flu in the commercial flock means the entire country gets banned.
Tell me, how do import regulations affect the price of mechanically deboned meat in South Africa compared to other countries? How do we place?
Great question, Mia. So South Africa currently is the biggest importer of mechanically deboned meat in the world. The Philippines is a close second. And at the moment, the Philippines are paying half of what South Africa is paying for mechanically deboned meat.
Yeah.
And this is as a result of the different phytosanitary protocols that are in place. So South Africa's, South Africa's reluctance, to introduce a heat treatment protocol means that the South African consumer is paying twice as much as they need to pay for basic entry-level processed meat products.
Yes, yes. How do you feel, just when you sit back, when we look at this import bans? I've read people using words like, the irrational bans. What's the general feel in the industry?
Mia, bird flu is endemic in poultry flocks around the world. South Africa is no exception. You will remember, recent devastating outbreak.
Yes.
That affected the price of poultry dramatically. Now, that's one issue. So at the end of the day, we're saying that these outbreaks are going to happen from time to time in just about every poultry producing nation in the world, and we should accept that. And how do we deal with that? Well, the way we deal with that is with regionalization. That's one issue.
Yes.
Second one is the heat treatment protocol that we are arguing for. Now, salmonella, again, is endemic in chicken. And if you heat treat poultry, you cook it to a certain core temperature, you hold it at that core temperature for a certain amount of time, you will kill all pathogens in the product. So in the EU, MDM it's permissible to trade in this format. In South Africa, the product needs to be free of highly pathogenic salmonella. The vets do from time to time grant us a concession to heat treat product, but it's at their sole discretion, which makes it very difficult for an importer to base a decision on whether to import or not on a whimsical decision by an official on the day.
Yes. When we look at the consequences, if there are any, obviously, of South Africa's strict import standards, what are these consequences for raw poultry products? Are there any?
Well, Mia, certainly. So they limit the available pool of product that we are able to import into this country. Automatically, if you don't have all the options, this influences the price. And certainly the biggest effect, of course, is the price of the end product. To put this in layman's terms, yesterday we bought mechanically deboned meat from Brazil at $1,000 a ton, delivered South African port. And our counterparts in the Philippines, who we have close contact with, are currently paying $550, almost nicely half.
Yes.
So there's a huge cost factor here.
Yeah. I think I'd like to take a minute and just focus on, the heat treatment. How does South Africa's approach differ with, international standards? What's the main difference between how we do it and how it's done internationally?
Well, Mia, you know, in South Africa currently, there are heat treatment protocols in place for pork. This was introduced in response to outbreaks of PRRS, or porcine reproductive respiratory syndrome, which South Africa claims to be free of, but which we believe the jury is still out on. But nevertheless, you know, an agreement is in place between South Africa and the countries producing pork. On arrival, the product obviously gets inspected by a state veterinarian.
Yeah.
The product is then moved to an approved processor, approved by by Delrod, and these facilities are audited. So they have to demonstrate that every kilogram of product that was imported has in fact been heat treated. So this then, of course, eliminates any risk, you know, to contaminated foodstuff entering the food chain. And I mean, this is the international norm or standard. South Africa, as I say, already have this in place for pork. All they have to do is transpose it to poultry, and off we go, and we can halve the cost of certain key raw materials or ingredients.
But what is causing it not to happen? What's that barrier?
You know, Mia, my view is simple.
Yeah.
If we fail to do something that would halve the cost of a key ingredient or raw material, what we are actually doing is we are restricting trade. So we're using a non-tariff barrier to trade to stop imports of products. Okay, and that's wrong. At the end of the day, you know, if there's an argument of dumping, ITAC get involved. If they can determine dumping, they impose anti-dumping duties. But here we are using phytosanitary rules to basically limit imports of product, and unfortunately, that's a little bit of a I think it's offsides.
Yeah.
And South Africa is a small open economy. We rely on other countries to import our goods. You know, very topical at the moment are citrus exports from South Africa to the EU. Everyone in SA is up in arms about the phytosanitary rules imposed in Europe, particularly in Spain. But yet we are quite happy, you know, to dish out the same treatment to poultry imports from the EU. You know, unfortunately, you get what you give in life. And I think it's no different in international trade.
I think you're the right person to ask this. What specific changes are advocated to improve South Africa's poultry trade practices?
This would then certainly be the regionalization we've been discussing, as well as the heat treatment protocols. Yes. And Mia, certainly there could be a relaxation of other phytosanitary requirements. You know, at the end of the day, we all need to compete on an even playing field. If you look at the health certificate currently in place between South Africa and the United States, it's vastly more favorable than the health certificate in place with any other poultry exporting countries, you know, that South Africa rely on, particularly Brazil, which accounts for 80% of the poultry products shipped to this country. So, you know, it seems it seems unfair that the US, you know, are able to benefit from a regionalization perspective, also from microbiological limits which are applied when product is sampled and tested on arrival. So we are arguing for a fairer playing field, a level playing field where all countries shipping goods to South Africa are treated the same.
I think if we bring it a bit home now, how do current trade practices impact local households and businesses in South Africa? How does that picture look like?
Well, you know, Mia, if you look at this current scenario with Poland being banned, you know, just us as an importer, us as one single importer, we lost around 120 containers of mechanically deboned meat, which couldn't be introduced into the country, leaving a huge gaping hole in the supply chain, and this has resulted in prices effectively doubling in this market over the course of maybe a 3-4 month period. So at the end of the day, there's a price to pay, you know, and unfortunately the consumer bears this price because it has to be passed on, unfortunately, by importers to wholesalers, to manufacturers, to retailers, and ultimately the consumer carries the can.
Absolutely. And I presume also that you guys are involved with, you know, conversations with stakeholders, because if we look at the overall, you know, stands of poultry in South Africa, the industry, what is the main argument? I mean, what are the first things that you would like to see done, let's say, in the next year?
Yeah, the most important and something that I believe needs to be done within the next month or two is to agree on a regionalization policy with Brazil.
Yeah.
This would mean that in the event of an outbreak of bird flu, we would only see possibly a county or a state being banned, as opposed to the entire country. What is at stake here? 80% of the poultry product imported into this country, could disappear, vanish overnight if we don't follow this. So I mean, that's an enormous price to pay.
Yes, absolutely.
It would see poultry prices exploding, and this is not something that's impossible to do. It's basically, it can be done with the stroke of a pen, literally. It's in place for the US. Extend the same treatment to Brazil, and we safeguard 80% of our imported poultry supply chain.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Any final thoughts from your side?
No, Mia, I just want to say that we're a member of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters, AME, and they lobby and engage with government and other stakeholders. We ourselves have taken it upon ourselves, literally, to elevate these issues that we believe are important to ourselves as well as to the consumer ultimately, and we want to expose these, shall I say, failures or matters that need to be addressed. We want to draw attention to them, and hopefully this, together with the lobbying being done by AME, will result in positive change over time.
Absolutely. Fred, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, and good luck.
Great. Thank you, Mia. Great chatting to you.
Dankie dat jy ingeskakel het.